But as soon as you came in, big rock star, everybody's surrounding you and getting hugs from our other minister here. So I didn't have a chance to say to you, hey, I have a couple of things I was thinking of saying. Are you okay with it? So I'm just going to go on the fly now. So I got some things here, okay? Okay, so we do have the blurb in the handout that you've received. I'll spare you, Minister. I'm not going to read all this for you on it. Lots there, though. Has been elected since 2000. Has gone through, I see, 2, 4, 6 elections, so you've got all the scars to show, I'm sure, for all of those that have gone through. That's a lot of elections to get through. Is presently our Minister of Intergovernmental and Northern Affairs and Internal Trade. What a mouthful. Can you say that 3 times? I'd do one thing. Maybe think about tightening up the title of that, you know? I mean, my God. So I came up with the acronym for this. Is it innate? Like natural, born with it? Is that what this is? Or is it in it? And you know, from us, from Indigenous communities, you know what in it means, eh? Like, how's it going, man? How's that? Wasn't that good lunch in it? You know, kind of like that. So you take it any way you want. It's either innate or in it. And this long mouthful of intergovernmental and Northern Affairs, internal trade, I took a look at the website before you came in, Minister, and kind of got the gist of it. If I could just paraphrase what I got, basically to enhance relations and trade within Canada with the regions and our partners and the governments. And so because we're dealing with the Inuit in the north, what are these partnerships, what are these relationships, and what are these trade that we can enhance that makes everybody's lives better? And so I look forward to hearing the few words that you have to say with us, Minister, please. Minister Dominic LeBlanc. Let's give him a hand.
Well, this is kind of somebody's computer here. There. Hope there's no pop-up that shows up on your computer here, Andrew, after. Very quickly to blame others. You should run for the House of Commons. You'd do well. Thank you. I learned from Ed Greenspan when he was a journalist. It's not how you play the game, it's where you put the blame, right? Ed knows that. Andrew, thank you for your kind invitation, but most importantly, thank you for what you do and what your partners do on an issue that's important, certainly to our government, to me personally. And it's a privilege to be able to spend a bit of time with you today. I apologize, I wanted to be at your reception on Tuesday evening. I was waiting at the airport for a flight that kept getting delayed to go to Toronto, where I had meetings yesterday. I bumped into Ed at the airport in Toronto yesterday morning when he was coming to Ottawa for this meeting, so I apologize, but I'm glad I was able to return from Toronto this morning to be able to spend this time with you. I'm also pleased to be with Dr. Bennett, my friend Carolyn. You talked about my having been elected 6 times. Carolyn has actually been elected to the House of Commons 60 times. So her first election, when Wilfrid Laurier asked her to run, it certainly was important for our party. So you're going to have a chance. As all of us look forward to spend some time with Carolyn. She is an inspiration to those of us that are lucky enough to serve with her in the House of Commons and in the Cabinet, and particularly because of her commitment to Indigenous issues, which is profound, based on a great personal insight and knowledge, and has existed, joking aside, for many years, including a time in opposition where many people 5 and 10 years ago didn't think that these issues were as important to Canada and Canadians as we always thought they were. Carolyn was sort of at the forefront of that, so it's a privilege to be able to work with her on issues including economic development in Canada's north. As Andrew said, I am pleased to have this opportunity to be with you today to outline some of our government's efforts to advance reconciliation as we attempt to forge together an inclusive economic future for Inuit, and to discuss how we can continue to all work together to foster long-term prosperity for Inuit, and obviously at the same time for all Canadians. The North is, as all of you know better than I, a place of outstanding beauty, but also vast economic potential. The North is also the home to the fastest growing segment of the Canadian population, that is young Indigenous people. The economic potential in the North stems not just from its wealth of natural resources, like minerals, oil and gas, and marine life, but also from its culture and certainly from its people. Having previously had the privilege of serving as Minister of Fisheries and Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard, I know that there is enormous potential in terms of sustainable economic development in northern fisheries. Nunavut's fisheries sector has developed into a thriving industry. For example, in 2015, the total landed market value of Nunavut's turbot, northern shrimp, and Arctic char harvest exceeded $85 million. And that has, in our view, the potential to grow exponentially. One of the challenges, and that's something we're committed to working on, obviously in partnership with all of you, is infrastructure. Infrastructure needs harbor infrastructure. Harbors in the North are very important. They're very expensive. And communities need safe, effective, efficient harbor infrastructure, processing infrastructure. The potential for the northern fishery, we think, is enormous. But the Government of Canada has to partner with all of you to ensure that it can safely and sustainably be prosecuted. The value of mineral production in the North is obviously much more significant as well. In 2017, the mining sector's total contribution to just Nunavut's gross domestic product was $537 million, including obviously contributions from metal ore mining and mining services. Metal ore mining alone contributed over 20% of the territory's gross domestic product. To fully benefit from this vast economic potential, we recognize we need to continue to deepen our partnerships, reflecting our government's broad commitment to a renewed relationship with Indigenous peoples based on the recognition of rights, respect, cooperation, and true partnership. The point is, when looking at economic development in the Arctic, we need to focus on people as well as natural resources. Sheila Watt-Cloutier, as all of you know, the former international chair of the Inuit Circumpolar Council, has pointed out the importance of seeing the human aspect of the effects of resource development and climate change in Canada's North. In her book, aptly named The Right to be Cold, she writes that she has been struck, quote, by the tight focus on wildlife instead of human life in the Arctic. She describes watching a montage about climate change in the Arctic that's been produced by non-northerners. The photographs were obviously impersonal, showing images of droughts, melting glaciers, coastal erosion, and polar bears. As she said, quote, there wasn't a human face in sight. I believe many Southerners view the Arctic in this way, as a vast, beautiful hinterland with few people in it. This has, in our view, unfairly shaped our way as a country of doing business and developing the economy in Canada's North. Voilà ce que nous sommes résolus à changer. If there's one thing that I think our government and Carolyn and I and our colleagues want to change, it's that exact perception. And as I said when I began, I think it's important for me as a cabinet minister, but also as a member of the national government, to salute and recognize the remarkable work that Carolyn has done. She has been truly committed to reconciliation and has worked, as I said, tirelessly and personally on this priority for literally many, many years. Last spring, she held a roundtable with the Northern Mineral Development Industry at the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada Conference, the PDAC conference. We heard that if progress is to be made on reconciliation, Canada will look very different in two ways. Firstly, in the way we make decisions, and secondly, in the quality of life for Indigenous peoples, including obviously Inuit. To the first point, Indigenous participation in decision-making is obviously essential. If we are going to develop the resources in Canada's north with a view to sustainability or even seven-generation thinking, we need collaborative governance models and true partnerships in the best and in every sense of the term. The settlement of modern land claims and the co-management regimes that were created as a result have in many cases transformed the relationship between mineral resource management and local communities, and hopefully in the spirit of reconciliation. The North can and should be, in our view, looked at as a co-management model so that elements of these regimes could be incorporated into everything from environmental assessments and regulatory processes and could be an example in other parts of the country as well. The co-management model can help make sure that development decisions are grounded in Inuit traditional knowledge. Integrating this traditional local knowledge in environmental assessments and project reviews has often led proponents to make improvements in their project designs. This makes obviously good economic sense, but it ensures that sustainable benefits last for the people that most depend on them. Notre succès dans ces domaines dépendent des activités conjointes d'élaboration de politique publique. That's why the co-development of the new Arctic and Northern Policy Framework is so important for our government. We recognize the extensive work that has already been done and undertaken by Northerners and by our Northern partners in obviously developing and co-developing their priorities. Through its ongoing engagement on the co-development of this new policy framework, our government has been hearing loud and clear that both economic and social development priorities are critical to Inuit populations. The second point of the Northern Mineral Development Industry Roundtable that Carolyn hosted, the second point that came out of that report, was that reconciliation efforts must open the door for Indigenous peoples to share in the real benefits of sustainable economic development. This will not only help repair some of the wrongs of the past, it has the potential to improve the quality of life for so many people, Northerners, but also people in every part of our country. It's clearly good for the Canadian economy writ large. For example, CanNor, the Economic Development Agency in Northern Canada, is working on 26 projects in mining and infrastructure with partners across the North. The projects are worth $18.5 billion and if realized would create some 7,000 jobs. But for many communities to benefit from the wealth of the North, they need investments. As all of you have said so many times and as your government has heard loudly and clearly, they need investments in health, education, housing, infrastructure, and training. Without these basic necessities, Indigenous peoples and communities are necessarily limited in their ability to benefit from this real economic development. Consider this. The National Aboriginal Economic Development Board estimated in 2016 alone that Indigenous people employed in the 3 territories could make an additional $1.1 billion in annual income if they had the same education and training as non-Indigenous people working in the territories. So think about that, $1.1 billion of additional income annually. Think of what that means to the families, to the women and men working in Canada's North, Indigenous Inuit people. If that training and education gap is finally closed, the economic potential alone of that measure is pretty dramatic. There is some progress in this area. There has been some progress. It's too slow, and we're committed to working with all of you to ensure that it's done expeditiously. The Nunavut Agreement specifically commits, for example, the Government of Canada to training and employment and contract opportunities for Inuit people. There's no question in our mind that the presence of private industry and private investments has also been a major driver of both Inuit employment and the creation of new Inuit Indigenous businesses as well. There's also a need for Indigenous employment in the more senior technical and management positions within, for example, mine sites, as well as more diverse segments of the mining sector or other natural resource development industries, such as legal, financial, and engineering positions. I think, for example, we should stop and sometimes understand the successes we've had to date. If you look at the impressive people who serve, for example, on the Inuit Women's Business Network, what they're doing to support the participation of Inuit women in the northern economy is truly impressive. The network assists all Inuit businesswomen in any stage of the development process of businesses by finding mentors and helping them find resources. While some business ventures obviously and necessarily focus perhaps on more traditional activities, the network has also and continues to open the doors for women in non-traditional jobs like the mining sector, management positions as well. CanNor and our northern partners are exploring ways right now that we can increase the participation of Inuit women in mining based on the results of a gender-based analysis on women involved in the extractive sector. So we have worked, I think, diligently to understand the economic potential of opening doors and improving access to training and employment programs, the impact it has on communities and on families if women can access these positions in Canada's North. So we're excited and committed to continuing to do this work with all of you in partnership, because we think that that's one small example amongst a whole series of others where the Government of Canada can make a meaningful contribution to economic development in the North. So this conference, and I thank the Public Policy Forum for having once again taken the initiative of convening these discussions. Joking aside, Ed Greenspan and I became friends some 20 years ago when I was a young staffer working in Mr. Chrétien's office. I've admired the work he did as a journalist, but the Public Policy Forum and the leadership that he and others are providing is a perfect way to convene these conversations, to deepen the understanding we all have amongst ourselves, and to help all governments, whether it's a municipal government, a provincial or territorial government, or the national government, all three orders of government better understand the ways for us to deepen partnerships and collaborate together. We think Inuit participation in decisions affecting the wealth related to the northern economy is absolutely essential. I think if we work together in a true spirit of partnership, we can achieve the shared objective of sustainable prosperity across the North. This will make reconciliation a reality, will benefit, obviously, Northerners, Inuit peoples who live in Canada's North, but make no mistake about it, this is also essential for the broader Canadian economy, and our job will be to help make Canadians understand the benefits of the work that we're all trying to do here together. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.